Hello guys, welcome to Quarry Movement Skills screencast. New topic that we're going on to is starting off with motor programs and then how we control motor skills, which are ultimately the decoding of motor programs. So just looking up onto the big picture here, or your objectives outline. First thing we have to do is kind of get an understanding of a motor program. Now, we've talked quite a little bit about memory, okay, and how in our long-term memory we have stored motor programs which are then decoded to our short-term memory to be performed as movement skills or motor skills. Yep, so catch-in is the main thing we've used. What we have to understand now is, firstly, what makes up a motor program, and then from that we're going to go on to these. Can we and how do we control those movement skills? So some movement skills cannot be controlled very well. Once you've started them, they can't be controlled, and this is called open loop control. Then we go down to closed loop control, which is where you can control the skill. What we have to understand is why open loop control cannot be controlled, whereas closed loop control can be controlled, and what the differences is between them. So going on from there then. First up, first key thing there, motor program. We basically, in order to understand what a motor program is, we have to ask ourselves those key trigger questions, the W's and the H. So what we're going to say first of all, we have a double what. So what we're going to say is, firstly, what is it? So what is a motor program? It's a movement plan. Okay, that's what it is. It's a movement plan. What's it made up of? Sequential linked subroutine. So basically, if you have a movement, they have sequence of events that allows it to be performed. For example, in a tennis serve, you would have ball toss, backswing, hit, follow through. That's sequential because it has to follow a certain sequence in order for it to be performed. Where is it stored? So it's stored in your long-term memory, as we've talked about before. Then, finally, how do we get it stored in our long-term memory? As we talked about that encoding process. In order to encode it, we have to repeat and rehearse. So repetition and rehearsal, e.g. practice, if you remember those long-term memory strategies, is what we're looking to do there. Now, finally, we have to have an example, and the example I want you to use is a tennis serve. That is easy. The tennis serve, then, how do we talk about it? We talk about it linked using a sequential subroutine. Subroutines, remember, is the translation for parts. So these are the marks you would need to have if a question came up. The type of question you would get on this, using a sporting example, describe the nature of a motor program. So that is your key bit. That's your first component. Looking back up onto here then, so you've got characteristics of a motor program, describe the nature of a motor program, what, where, how, example. They're the key focuses on that. Now we've got these motor programs, we need to know. Now we've got these kind of movement plans, we need to be able to say, right, can we control them? So there's kind of ways that we use this, and there's two forms of closed loop control and open loop control starts with. Now open loop control then, if you have a look onto here, open loop control is the first form of control, and basically this control is very difficult, and it's the type of control that's linked to kind of reflex actions or very fast skills. So basically during this you have a kind of you don't need to write any of this down because I'm going to give you a kind of a separate slide in a second. This is just a thinking slide, an explanation slide on me. So the first form of control, basically no feedback can be used because the skills that are used during open loop control are so fast. So this means no adjustment can be made to the skill until after the movement. If I got you to think about a golf swing, okay, which we're going to go on to in a second, you imagine you've got that the golf club in your hand, you take a big swing back and you whack it. If you whack it, you cannot use any feedback during the skill because the skill is so fast. Now this is termed in skill acquisition ballistic, okay, ballistic, dynamic, so quick that you can't use any feedback, so you can't use kinesthesis to change it because you're going through the movement so ballistically or fast. Now this then directly links to adjustment. You cannot make adjustments. So open loop control then, for any of the loop controls, we're basically saying in order to control movement skills using this open loop control, we need a kind of checklist. This checklist is huge, hugely important. I'll explain how you're going to do it. So this is what you do need to copy down. So open loop control then, checklist. We have to be able to answer these three questions in order to be able to get a good answer in this in the exam. So what I'm saying then now, open loop control will be your next heading on your core down notes. So feedback. No feedback can be used during the skill. Therefore, because you can't use kinesthesis during the skill, no adjustment can be made during the skill. Also, this is used for ballistic skills. So here, this feedback, this FAB is going to be your acronym. These are things, so is it used for ballistic or slow skills? We've already said ballistic and fast because we're going to use the example as a golf swing. So basically, the key things I need you to take away from this screencast is that, we have motor programs, we need to know the characteristics of a motor program, and then after that we need to know the two mechanisms by which you can control the movement skills. First one's open loop control. This is the checklist, you need to be able to answer it. Feedback, no feedback can be used during the skills, during open loop control. No adjustment can be made during a skill to open loop control because it's a ballistic skill, a fast skill, not a slow skill. So for example, a golf swing, which I've put up there on the slide. Now, I've put this little bit here. Why is there a link between open loop level 1 and an autonomous performers? This is something we'll have a look into lessons. Your core note should consist of characteristics of a motor program, key trigger questions, they should be on the side for your individual questions. Open loop control level 1, you should be able to talk about F, A, B, feedback adjustment, ballistic or slow, and you answer those questions. Open loop control involves skills that cannot use feedback during the skill. It involves skills that cannot be adjusted during the skill, and finally it involves ballistic skills which are very fast. Okay, they're your key components. Thank you very much.